"Cowboy, what are you doing in my house? Do you want my body?" asked the Apache woman. He was following an old trail, hoping to reach the next town before nightfall, but a sudden storm had changed everything. The wind began to howl, pushing sand into his eyes and face. He pulled his hat lower and leaned forward in the saddle. His right shoulder ached badly. Earlier that day, his horse had stumbled on rocky ground, throwing him hard against the earth. He had managed to get back up, but the pain never left. Blood had soaked through his shirt, and every movement reminded him how alone he was. As thunder rolled across the sky, he spotted something ahead. At first, it looked like part of the land itself, almost hidden among rocks and dry trees. Then he realized it was a small house, built low and strong, meant to survive harsh weather. Relief washed over him. Shelter meant safety, at least for the night. He guided his horse closer and dismounted with effort. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself forward. He did not know who lived there, but the storm was coming fast, and he had no other choice. Rain began to fall in heavy drops, turning the dust into thick mud. He reached the door and hesitated. His hand hovered in the air. He knew the stories. This land was not truly his. Many people had lived here long before cowboys, soldiers, and fences arrived. Knocking felt risky, but so did turning back. Before he could decide, the door opened. An Apache woman stood there, tall and steady, her dark eyes sharp with alertness. Her hair was braided neatly, and she held herself with quiet strength. She had heard the horse, the footsteps, and the storm all at once. Seeing a stranger at her door made her heart race, but she did not step back. The cowboy froze. He had not expected the door to open so suddenly. Water ran down his face, and he raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. For a long moment, they only stared at each other. The storm roared around them, but the space between them felt even louder. Then she spoke, her voice firm and guarded. "Cowboy, what are you doing in my house? Do you want my body?" "No," he said, his voice rough and tired. "No, ma'am, I'm hurt. The storm, I just need a place to wait it out." It was all she had left after loss, war, and broken agreements. A stranger at her door meant danger, even if he looked weak. The cowboy felt her doubt clearly. He lowered himself slowly, sitting on a stone near the door. "I won't come in if you don't want me to," he said. "I just can't ride anymore. My horse needs rest. So do I." She glanced at the sky, then back at him. The storm was not going away soon. Leaving him outside could mean death. Letting him in could mean something worse. She stood between two hard choices. She remembered her husband, gone for 2 winters now. She remembered the warnings from elders, the stories told by firelight about trust given too easily. She also remembered the teachings about humanity, about helping the weak without surrendering one's soul. "Stay where you are," she said at last. She stepped back inside and returned with a small cloth and a container of water. She did not cross the doorway. Instead, she placed them just inside the door and nodded toward them. "Clean your wound," she said. "You look like you will fall." "You may sit near the fire," she said, "but you stay where I can see you." She stood near the wall, still ready to act if needed. This man was not her enemy yet, but he was not her friend either. He was a reminder of a world that kept pressing in on hers. The cowboy felt the weight of her stare. He had crossed many lands without thinking much about who they belonged to. Tonight, sitting in her home, injured and powerless, he felt something new, respect mixed with shame. "I won't stay longer than I have to," he said quietly. "When the storm passes, I'll go." Rain fell hard against the roof, and the wind pushed through every small opening, making the fire flicker. The sound of thunder echoed again and again, as if the land itself was restless. The Apache woman stayed alert. She did not sit. She did not relax. Every part of her attention remained on the stranger near her fire. She had learned long ago that danger often arrived quietly, wearing the face of weakness. Many promises in her life had started that way. The cowboy felt the tension in the room. He could sense that one wrong move, one careless word could change everything. He focused on keeping his hands still and his voice calm. Pain still burned in his shoulder, but he welcomed it. It reminded him to stay aware. You should rest, she said after a long silence. Her tone was firm, not kind, not cruel. But do not sleep deeply. I do not trust deep sleep from strangers. This one did not. She moved closer to the fire, adding a small piece of wood. The light showed the lines of her face, shaped by sun, wind, and loss. She was young, but life had aged her in ways time alone never could. You came from the west, she said. It was not a question. Yes, he answered. I work cattle. I follow where the job goes. He had seen towns rise where open land once stretched forever. He had never asked who paid the price. I can't change what others have done, he said slowly, but I can choose what I do tonight. Nature had no interest in their history. The storm treated all people the same. His shoulder began to shake slightly. He pressed his jaw tight, trying not to show weakness. She noticed anyway. Her people had survived by noticing small things. You are losing strength, she said. I'll manage, he replied, though his voice was weaker now. She walked to a small shelf and took down a pouch of dried herbs. She hesitated, then knelt a few steps away from him. Let me see the wound, she said. He looked surprised. You don't have to. Her movements were controlled, careful. She had done this before, though never for someone like him. This will hurt, she warned. I know, he said. She cleaned the wound with steady hands. He clenched his fists but did not cry out. She respected that. Pain was familiar to her. Silence during pain was strength. As she worked, memories rose in her mind. Her husband had once sat where this man now sat, strong, laughing, full of plans. He had believed peace was possible. That belief had cost him his life. She pushed the memory away, focusing on the present. Why are you alone? She asked suddenly. Because I move too much, he said. Hard to keep people around when you're always riding away. Movement keeps some people alive, she said. For others, it takes everything. He was also a responsibility, and she took responsibility seriously. The hours passed slowly. The storm showed no sign of ending. They spoke little, but when they did, the words mattered. He told her about long days riding under open skies, about nights sleeping under stars, about towns that felt the same no matter where they stood. He did not brag. He did not complain. He spoke as someone who had accepted his life without pride. She listened without interrupting. When she spoke, she told him about the land before fences, about songs sung to remember ancestors, about the way the stars were used as guides long before maps existed. Her voice was quiet but strong. Their worlds were different, yet pain sounded the same in both. At one point, the fire burned low. He reached forward to add wood, then stopped, looking at her. She nodded once. It was a small gesture, but it mattered. Later, exhaustion finally pulled at him. His eyes grew heavy. I might sleep, he said. Light sleep, she reminded him. He smiled faintly. That's all I know. She watched his breathing, steady but shallow. He did not move much. He did not reach for anything. He simply existed. Outside, the storm slowly began to weaken. The rain softened, though the wind still whispered through the valley. Dawn was far away, but the worst of the night was passing. She felt a strange calm settle inside her. Not trust, not peace, something in between. A reminder that even in a world shaped by loss, moments of shared survival could still happen. When he stirred, she was still watching. You stayed, he said quietly. This is my home, she replied. He nodded. I know. The ground outside was wet, and small drops of water fell from the roof in steady rhythm. Inside the house, the fire still burned, softer now, giving gentle warmth. The cowboy woke with a quiet breath. His body felt heavy, but the sharp pain in his shoulder had eased slightly. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he saw her standing near the doorway, watching the land as the sky began to lighten. You are awake, she said without turning. Yes, he replied. I didn't mean to sleep long. He noticed small details he had missed before, the careful way everything was placed, the signs of a life lived with purpose and memory. She handed him a small bowl of warm food. Eat, she said. You need strength if you plan to leave today. That is all. Forgetting is easy, she said. Remembering is harder. "And now," she asked. "Now I see a home," he said. "Not land, not space, a home. Few listen, fewer remember." "Your horse will be ready soon," she said. "Yes," he answered, "I should go. If I cross paths with your people again," he said, "I will speak with respect." The sun rose behind her, outlining her figure with light. Strong, still, he mounted his horse carefully. "I won't forget this place," he said. She replied simply, "Then it mattered." As he rode, his thoughts stayed with the night, with the storm, with the woman who had stood her ground and still chosen humanity. The land no longer felt empty to him. It felt full of stories he had never learned. Behind him, she stood inside her home, listening as the sound of hooves faded. She felt no regret, only clarity. She had faced fear and chosen balance. That too was strength. The day moved on, but for both of them something had shifted quietly, deeply, and forever. The sun climbed higher as the morning passed, spreading light across the wide land. The cowboy rode slowly, not because his horse was tired, but because his thoughts were heavy. Each step forward felt different from the rides he had taken before. The land no longer seemed silent. It felt watched, remembered, and alive. His shoulder still ached, reminding him of the night. Every small pain carried meaning now. It was not just an injury, it was a lesson written into his body. He had entered a home not his own and left carrying more than shelter. He carried awareness. As he followed the old trail, he passed places he had once ignored, dry riverbeds, clusters of trees, distant hills. Before, they had been nothing more than scenery. Now he wondered who had walked there before him, who had named these places, who had buried loved ones beneath the soil. The land felt layered with lives. By midday, he reached a familiar crossing point where traders and workers often met. A few men were resting there, talking loudly, laughing. One of them noticed his bandaged shoulder. "What happened to you?" the man asked. "Storm and a fall," the cowboy replied. "Lucky you're alive," another said. The cowboy nodded but said nothing more. He could have told the story as an adventure, as something brave or dramatic. Instead, he stayed quiet. The truth felt too important to be turned into casual talk. When the men spoke poorly about the people of the land, as they often did, the cowboy felt something tighten inside him. He remembered her steady eyes, her calm strength, her refusal to step aside out of fear. "That's not right," he said suddenly. The men looked at him, surprised. "You don't know what you're talking about," one replied. "Maybe," the cowboy said calmly, "but I know they are people, and this is their home too." He continued his journey over the following days. He worked when he could, rested when he needed to, and moved on when the land pulled him forward. But everywhere he went, he noticed things he had never noticed before. How towns were built over older paths, how names were changed, how stories were erased. Sometimes, at night, he remembered the firelight in her home, the sound of rain, the way silence had spoken louder than words. He did not imagine her waiting for him or thinking of him. He did not need that. What mattered was what the moment had given him. Far away, the Apache woman continued her life as she always had. She gathered food, cared for her home, and followed the rhythm of the land. The storm had passed, but its meaning stayed with her too. She thought about the stranger from time to time, not as a memory of danger but as a reminder. He was proof that not every person from the outside was the same. That careful choice mattered. That strength could exist alongside mercy. She did not tell others about him. Some moments were not meant to be shared. They were meant to be held quietly, like a stone kept in a pocket for grounding. As seasons shifted, life brought new challenges. Travelers passed nearby. Some were respectful, some were not. Each time she stood firm, guided by the same balance she had shown that night. Fear did not rule her, but neither did trust come easily. One evening, as she watched the sunset, she thought of her husband. She imagined him approving of her choice. Not because she had helped a stranger, but because she had stayed true to herself. The land remained contested. Hard times did not disappear. History did not soften overnight, but within all that struggle, small truths lived on. Quiet truths, human truths. Years later, the cowboy would be older. his hair touched with gray, his riding slower. But he would still remember one stormy night when he learned to see differently. He would tell younger men to be careful with the land, with words, with assumptions. Some would listen, some would not. That was not in his control. The Apache woman would grow older too, carrying stories in her silence. She would teach the next generation about strength, about caution, about holding one's ground without losing one's heart. Their lives would never cross again. No letters, no promises, no dramatic endings. Just one shared moment that changed direction, like a river bending around stone. And that was enough, because real change does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, through a door opened during a storm, through a choice made in fear, through respect given without reward. The land remembered them both, and in that remembering the story lived on.